This Coast to Coast Entertainment Network program is brought to you by Beside Me Bracelets. Our bracelets are handmade for any occasion. Use the promo code Coast to Coast for 15% off. Visit their website at besideme.com. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. With 24-hour shopping available, use the code 160920 and show her some love, like she showed us. Reaper Apparel Company, a commitment to live your most authentic way every single day. Visit reaperapparelco.com for more information and a look at all of their apparel offerings. And by Good Day Embroidery, your local source for custom embroidery, screen printing, and more. Log on to gooddayembroidery.com for more information.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the 2025 edition of On Deck here on Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. I am Crispy Bacon, here with James. How you doing this evening?
Oh, good. I'm ready to get the season started for MLB, but we're still in spring training, and there's so much storylines I'll get to about that. But it's a good to be back on this. I know we had morning tailgate, but that's off now, and we're gonna do this for a while.
Yeah, football season ended about a month ago. Now we're in baseball season. I'm also here with Big B. How you doing, Big B?
Hey, it's good. I'm doing good. I'm glad to be on a show that, I was the founder of. I know my work schedule took me off for a while, but hey, if we do it Saturday nights, I'll be on a lot more, and I always love talking baseball. So it's going to be a good start to the preseason, our preseason, and then roll into the regular season. So can't wait.
That's right. We're in our little spring training here, and you guys enjoy it as we get started here for 2025. This is On Deck. We also have C2C at night on Mondays, C2C Rankum on Tuesdays with Big B and Tim. You also have Entertainment Hour on Fridays. You also have Callan Show.
Press Row,
yeah. So a lot of great shows.
Yep.
And also, then, of course, an interview on Tuesday, right?
Yep. And don't forget our, my little partnership with the St. Paul Bears Arena Football League. This year's their first year. I got my good friend Cody as the head coach. So hopefully we get to do a lot of weekly shows, interviews, had some good ones, met a couple great players. I hope to be there. I don't know if I'll be at the tryouts on the 16th. I'm trying. It is early morning. We'll see. But yeah, definitely hope to catch opening day with them and maybe live streaming here on C2C if my work schedule works out. So
yeah, his team had a preseason matchup that was kind of had a surprising win, so
Yep, we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about that on Tuesday, and then he did tell me he had some other breaking news, so we'll see what happens.
So tune into that. As we head into today's show, we're going to start off with some kind of in memoriam with Rickey Henderson, Bob Uecker, and Pete Rose. So anybody want to start? We'll begin with Rickey Henderson. Who wants to start off?
Go ahead, Big B.
I grew up, watching Oakland baseball. Rickey Henderson. I mean, I'm in Minnesota here with the Twins, but when ESPN started, I mean, you had a lot of Rickey Henderson highlights. I mean, even on the news here, you would get Rickey Henderson either leadoff home run or his stolen bases. I mean, the guy could flash the leather in the outfield. The guy just had speed all in general. I mean, for most of my childhood, the battle for stolen base was either Rickey Henderson and Vince Coleman, who was going to get the most. When Rickey did end up passing, there's a lot of stories that came out that, he would call certain people and kind of laugh at their stolen bases when he was hurt. For me, it's going to be hard to watch, Oakland baseball now because they're on the road. But, for the fans that, grew up in Oakland in that area, I mean, it's going to be hard to be cheering for them, and they don't have a home field. So how are they going to memorialize Ricky this year? I mean, I think they're going to do a patch on their jersey. Hopefully opening day all around they do a moment of silence for all three of these guys that passed away. Well, for me, it's he was the king of base stealing. I remember seeing the highlight of him breaking that record, stealing third. Him grabbing the third base and pretty much digging it out. So yeah, it's going to be hard to go into this season, and there are probably going to be a lot of Rick Anderson moments and talk about. I do a lot of card breaks, and there's one card, I forgot who the outfielder was, but there's a picture of the outfielder, and then back at Oakland Coliseum is a big picture of Ricky Henderson on there. So that was like a kind of a sweet card to try to score. But James, you grew up in that area. I mean, what's it going to be like? You think?
I didn't grow up in the Bay Area, but I know that he was the Bay Area.
Yeah.
When he was an A, and then when he went to New York, and he came back to be an Athletic when they were going through the World Series year in 89, 88, 89. He would have been 66 too, but he passed away 5 days before he died. About Ricky, I just missed watching his, prime. I didn't really watch him until the end of his career, when he was a Dodger, and it was weird. I was like, who's this old guy playing, sometimes in left field for LA, and then he ended up in independent ball playing for the Long Beach Surf Dogs, I want to say they were called. Yeah. But you could just tell he loved the game. He played all the way from 79 to 03. He was drafted, though, in 1977, and then, or 76, and then his first year at Single A Modesto was 77. And then he played independent ball for 2 more years until 2005. So think about that. Mm-hmm. He almost played all those years, and he just loved the game. He loved himself. The stories I've always heard about, of course, with Tony Gwynn and all of his ace teammates. And then, of course, I remember him. Well, he wasn't in the movie Little Big League, but the scene I always talk about whenever Ricky comes up is now the kids are talking at school, and the main one is saying, like, yeah, we could have Ricky Henderson, but he wants like all the demands for him to come to the Twins. And I always kept that in mind because he was always someone that liked things like that. He referred to himself always in the third person. King of the base stealers, of course. Pretty good outfielder. But would win you games easily. The best leadoff hitter maybe out there. I know he'd be my left fielder when I would pick an all-time team. Oh, yeah. I would have him leading off, no doubt about it. But I think he was larger than life in baseball, and it hurts too. And then I think the last time publicly we saw him, or at least I saw him on YouTube, he was at the last Oakland A's home game.
Yep. And
I want to say he threw out the first pitch, but he was with a former teammate, and he looked fine. But I don't know what happened. But it's just fitting because of what Big B mentioned, how they moved to Sacramento, and you can't call them, anything A's. They have no city. So I know we'll talk about that eventually when we do our predictions, but it's just a really odd time in the Bay, and then losing Ricky Henderson was just awful ending to the time for the A's in Oakland.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting. Them, the A's kind of relocating without a home per se, and I was just looking online, and they're going to go with a like the Las Vegas patch on their uniforms this year.
And that's the tourism company Las Vegas, not the
Mhm.
not actually the city, but
Oh yeah,
but it's like foreshadowing. Even though they have the Sacramento's bridge patch there, they also have the Las Vegas tourism patch. It's just a weird transitional time.
Yeah. It's kind of, James, you kind of alluded to it. I, really wasn't thinking, but, Oakland leaving, now they lost one of their Mount Rushmore Oakland A's, at the same time. And yeah, kind of, feel bad for the Oakland A fans because, now they have nothing. They lost a great player. So it'll be interesting to see how they do opening day for, Ricky Henderson.
there. Years from now, we're gonna be like, telling other people or kids, whatever. You had to be there,
Yeah.
when all this happened. Uh, but he'll be missed. What about Bob Euchre, James?
Man, where to start? These are three like pillars of the game, and it just that one hurt, and that was what earlier this year. God, I forgot what age it was, but I know it's somewhere in the 80s, of course. But that one hurt too because you don't think about really his playing career. You
Nope.
think about the jokes of his playing career, and I love those all the time. He would tell them on all the late night shows back then, starting with Johnny Carson and then on Letterman. So he passed away at 89 on January 16th.
Yep.
And right away, it felt like Milwaukee, you could just shut the city down after that, at least for people that knew who he was. He was going to go into his 48th year, I want to say, if he would have been able to. But all the stories you hear, and it's always something good. It's never anything bad or negative. Whenever people talk about Bob Euchre, all those years with the Brewers, the playing career, how I think he had 4 home runs, and Sandy Koufax has to remind him that the reason that he retired jokingly was because Bob Euchre hit a home run off of him.
Yep.
And he was one of the 4 that home runs, and he felt ashamed about that. All the stories, the Hall of Fame speech. If anyone ever has time, and if they ever need like they need to put a little happiness in their life, and they understand the game of baseball and the history of it. If you haven't already, go watch the Hall of Fame speech of Bob Euchre. It's all of his jokes. It's just stand up. He didn't even write it. He had it all in his head. It was a stand up throughout his whole career, and it was just great. But all the years of calling games, his signature home run call, it was again larger than life. Of course, remember him. We were just talking about movies with Major League 1, 2, and 3
Yep.
as Harry Doyle. He was just amazing in those movies. And the fact that I found out after his death that a lot of his scenes were, what do you call it? They were just...
Ad-libbed?
Yeah, thank you. Ad-libbed. I'm thinking to myself, wow, that's just amazing that he'd come up with that, but he was so skilled with comedy. I didn't see it in real life, but the Miller Lite commercials, how he must have been in the front row, and they put him all the way up in the right filled upper level seats. He missed the tag, all those commercials, and he was just an American figure more than a baseball figure. That's really something you have to admire about him. And everybody loved him. Everybody had a story about him, and he was the easiest guy to get along with or listen to, and that's hard to do nowadays. So I'm gonna really, really miss Mr. Baseball, Bob Uecker.
Yeah, that
Just
James,
a
like
bit
you
outside.
said, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, James, we're not gonna, his baseball career was what it was. I mean, he was a superstar, but definitely he loved the game. He moved up to the booth. Yeah, I think you're right. He's like at 45 or 48 years of broadcasting. Tim Hendricks would know because he follows the Brewers, and he is comedic. I mean, everybody that the interviews I've seen, on TikTok and all the social media pages after he passed, everybody's just like, "Oh man, I remember the time that somebody laid down or had a swinging bunt, and he made it sound like it was an amazing hit, and and he would make you lose track if you're trying to be his partner, and it was hard to not laugh at some of his comments that he made throughout the game, and and then definitely his movies. I mean, like you said, Major League 1, 2, especially 1. I think we could all probably recite every single line of his in that movie, especially those I watched it over and over, like J-Mac has. But yeah, it's going to be hard, following Brewers baseball or, catching them on series, radio if you're traveling, and not to hear Bob Uecker's call. I hope that the Brewers this year, at least for the first homestand that they have, they use a lot of his home run calls or, player introductions. I hope they use him calling out those players' names that he has had, just for remembrance. And I think the Brewers are honoring him with a patch on their helmet or sleeve, which is great, But it is just funny though that we're talking about how great of a announcer he was, and as a player, nobody knows that he actually played much baseball, and stuff like that. But yeah, that was definitely a hard one to hit when actually Tim Hendricks texted me and he's like, "Hey, Bob Uecker passed away." It's just like, what? So, but yeah, that is 2 out of the 3 people that are going to be missed this year.
It is gonna. It's sad. He's gonna be missed. I'm sure the team is also gonna honor him. By putting like a memorial broadcast booth up. Some teams do that.
Oh yeah, they'll have something that they'll
broadcaster.
reveal probably at Miller Park or whatever it's called this day, up in the rafters and stuff like that. So,
and then we also have, I guess the final person is Pete Rose. Big B, you want to start?
Yeah, honestly, I guess when I sent this out, I thought Pete Rose passed after the baseball season, but he passed end of September. So I mean, the Reds have said they're going to honor him a little bit more. But yeah, the all-time hits leader. I mean, I didn't grow up watching much of Pete Rose. I know more of as a manager, but the thing is the highlights you see of that kid, or the gentleman, I should say, not kid, but I mean, they called him Charlie Hustle, and that's what he did every game. It didn't matter if it was a blowout, a close game, exhibition game. He was giving it 110%. I know there's been a lot of talk, and I saw a report that his family has petitioned MLB to lift the ban so they can put him in the Hall of Fame. I'm kind of mixed reactions on that. Yes, I want him in the Hall of Fame, but I wish he was alive to enjoy it. So I kind of wish they don't put him in the Hall of Fame. But again, I mean, the third out of these, this trio, I mean, James, you kind of said it before. These are like 3 pillars of baseball in different mindsets. Ricky Henderson, base stealer, great in the field. Pete Rose, hustle, all-time hit leader. Bob Uecker, the community aspect up in the booth, and baseball took a big hit, from September until this year, with these 3 passes. So, it'll be I mean, a good baseball game, but it'll be hard to watch it knowing that these guys aren't going to be around.
Yeah. For Pete
It is going
Rose,
to be heard. James?
oh yeah, for Rose, I think you're supposed to play the game like he did. And I don't think anyone really ever did. Where it was hustle all the time, you know, make the right plays, play hard all the time. He's only one, of course, to like truck a catcher in the All-Star game, Ray Fosse, and then just the spirit of the game. I know he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way on and off the field. Maybe that's why he never got, pardoned in a way to get back in before he died. But I know that was the running opinion or the popular opinion among baseball fans and journalists and whomever you would talk to about Pete Rose. Oh, he'd get in when he dies, but while he's alive, there's a lot of people that don't want him in. I wish he would go in. I wish they would put him in, but it feels tainted now since he's gone.
Yep.
He passed away 83 in September, by the way,
Yeah.
and 17-time All-Star, career leader with hits, record of games played and plate appearances. He was one time an MVP. Remember, he was on teams that were really, really stacked.
Yep.
So he didn't have like the awesome home run numbers.
He didn't need it.
He wouldn't work nowadays, but he would be awesome anytime, really, of any generation of baseball. He played on 3 different World Series winners, 75, 76 with the Reds, and then 80 with Philadelphia. He also played with Montreal, I think, for 1 or 2 years, and that was weird before he went back and got the hit record with Cincinnati. Managed, I think, those 3 or 4 years with the Reds when they were in a transitional time, too. But yeah, I would hope that he gets in somehow. Hopefully Manfred, and I know I think the president has even gone in and tried to get it done.
Yep.
The lawyer that represented Rose was trying to get him in there, and we'll see what happens. But also, Chris and Brandon, I also want to mention like a few others because there's a whole list of players that passed away in 2024 just by itself.
Well, yeah.
You think
Go
Willie
ahead,
Mays,
go.
Say Hey
Nope.
Kid, a lot of people think that he's the best center fielder of all time, and I wouldn't have any doubt about it. I would probably say so as well. He literally went from coast to coast, and his name went with him with the Giants. And I know he ended up back with the Mets for a World Series appearance, but everybody just knew and loved about him. They had songs about him. He was awesome. He was just a 5-tool player, everything you would know. Fernando Valenzuela, remember, passed away. I want to say it was during the playoffs. I think it was, or maybe just.
I think it was right before the playoffs. I
think. He was so instrumental into why the Dodgers are loved by the Mexican community in Los Angeles. He came from, the desert out there in Mexico where nobody is, and luckily a Dodger scout found him back in the 70s, brought him over, and right away it was Fernando Mania. I mean, nothing beat his rookie year where he had, I think, 9 starts that were scoreless. He was just awesome. He ended up winning a couple of championships with LA. Never got in the Hall of Fame, but got his number retired by the Dodgers just based on what he meant for the community there. I guess some other folks. Jimmy Williams was a former manager of the Red Sox. UL Washington was part of a infield for the Royals back in the 70s and 80s. That was very important. Luis Tion, if you ever seen his pitching motion, where he literally twisted away and back to home plate, it was something to behold. Some others, Merv Redmond was a great pinch hitter. Ed Ott was a great outfielder. Ed Kranepool. He was a 1969 New York Met outfielder that was on that team that no one ever thought would win a championship ever. I do want to mention one more. I think he just passed away. Sean Burroughs, out here in San Diego. He was a high prospect locally out of, I think, Long Beach, but his father was a player a long time with the Rangers as well. But there was a player, former player, the oldest former player, Art Shalak. He was an AL and NL player back in the day. He passed away at 100 years old. Shalak was a World Series champion 3 times and a World War II vet. So I bet he had a bunch of stories, but he just passed away today as we're doing this segment. So I guess some breaking news there. But a lot of people to remember. And again, you have 5 pillars there. Valenzuela, Mays, Rose, Henderson, and then Euchre. I mean, if you put them all on one team, it would maybe be the best team ever. Sprayed with some other players, but it's just been a horrific year of loss, I think, for MLB.
Yeah, it's hard when you have players who've been in any sport or in any profession, that have had an impact in whatever they do, and they're just going to be missed, throughout the season and throughout. As we head into spring training, James, you had some headlines?
Oh, yes. Of course I do. All right, so there's been a lot, and it started off with the New York Yankees, of course, with Marcus Stroman. Now, you guys remember him.
I think I know where you're going with this, maybe.
Yeah, he he wanted to be a starter, but the Yankees already have 5 good ones.
Yep.
And he just felt like not showing up to camp, even though it was in Tampa, and that's where the Yankees are. By the way, the Rays have to play at Steinbrenner Field because their roof was literally blown off. But yeah, there's Ray toxicity. Stroman, of course, was left off the World Series roster, and I want to say the postseason roster too. But yeah, he felt like he wanted to start, but his numbers weren't good as last year. He's just one guy that has bounced around so much. Yeah. All right, so there's Giancarlo Stanton, who needed elbow surgeries on both elbows. There's like tendonitis issues, and it's just crazy to think about that too. He had a great postseason, especially against Cleveland in the ALCS. He was the MVP of that, but he has a huge contract, and it just continues to be kind of a downfall for him. Even though they got to the World Series last year, it just seems like they're having that issue with him again with injuries. He has a long list of them. The Yankees, by the way, you could have facial hair and a little, probably like a stumble or whatever. No more the clean shaven policy that Steinbrenner brought in 1975. So it's finally happened where they can evolve, the players can. But the funny thing about it, the new closer that they acquired from Milwaukee, Devin Williams, he shaved his long beard, and then 2 days later they put the rule in where you can allow a beard to happen. So I mean, his beard wouldn't have been allowed, but he could at least like trim it and keep it there. So it was just weird timing for him. And then with Garrett Cole, yesterday he felt some discomfort. Yeah. Remember, I think he was a Cy Young Award winner last year with the New York Yankees, and he said something wasn't right. He gave up 6 runs and 5 hits in 2 2/3 innings in a spring training game against the Twins on Thursday, and he got more sore and sore as the game outing went on for him. So he expects to know more about the situation, but just the imaging of the right elbow going on. It's just a story to look at because they really need him. And they did get some reinforcements like Max Farid from free agency. But already, like the Tampa toxicity is right there for the Yankees. And it started with, day one with Stroman. And it's just interesting to see about that. So any of you have anything on that before I go on?
I mean,
that was interesting about. Oh, go ahead, BB.
No, go ahead, Chris. You go ahead first.
No, I was going to say, when I saw the story of the Yankees taking out the facial hair policy, it's like, why is this a story? I mean, I get it, but in my head, I'm like, why is this a story? But it's long overdue.
Yeah. If you guys remember Simpsons, Chris, you might have not seen the episode yet. James, you might have.
Yep.
Where they're making a softball team and Burns was bringing in all these players, and Don Mattingly, had his long sideburns, and he's like, no, you got to shave them. And he's like, what? I don't have, so he kept shaving them, and finally it got to the point where he's like scalped himself, and Burns is like, yeah, that'll work, and yeah, the facial thing. I think Cincinnati, when they had their female owner, she had some kind of hair policy too, and some players didn't want to sign their.
I can see that.
I don't know. You want to hold the legacy, and you want to be traditional. And to me, it's just one of those things where each player is different. Some people like the long hair, gold tees, bald head, stuff like that. I mean, it's just I don't think that it should be a mandate, but kind of funny that they lifted it with that Stroman. Everybody wants to be out there 5 days, but sometimes you're better off as a reliever. I mean, look at Mariano Rivera. The guy went out every couple days. Got paid. And then Cole, I saw the report yesterday, and I'm just like, oh man, arm injury already, season in jeopardy. From what I was kind of seeing, yeah, that could be a big blow. Me not being the best Yankee fan. I mean, or the biggest guy that could care less if the Yankees win or lose. Hopefully they lose. I mean, I like to see them falter, but you want to beat the best. Yankees, are the pinnacle of baseball. When they're good, ratings have shown baseball is high. I mean, yeah, it gets sickening, but it is spring training. It's a sprint. We'll see where Cole, how long he's going to be out for. And Yankees are going to, like James has kind of said, they're going to just go out there and rebuild. I mean, they're going to go find their guy. So. Hopefully everybody comes in healthy. Hopefully Stroman figures out his stuff, and we'll go for. And then, like you said, James, Tampa Bay has to play at their minor league facility. That kind of sucks, but at least we got two major league teams that don't have a home for the whole year. So that's kind of ironic. So it'll be interesting to We'll get into our predictions later, so I'll get into something like that later.
Yeah, I think Manley also had an issue with the Yankees about his mustache. It became a thing, and he became a thing. He was the hitman on that poster. All those years ago. So I thought it was cool though when. Now, I would watch the games on like ESPN Classic or whatever when the Yankees had those World Series games in the 70s. Even in the 80s, they always had like the sideburns, they had the mustaches, the afro hair, but it wasn't like crazy like other teams, right? Like the Indians had all those players. Like Oscar Gambo had the big fro. Raleigh Fingers had his mustache. But I'm happy that the Yankees got it to a point where everyone else is doing it, and finally it's like, hey, let them have a little bit of freedom at least.
Well,
I
just
know
think
you're a brand, but still.
yeah, you're right, dude. Just think of somebody like Dela Cruz that has the dreads.
He would have to cut them all off.
Exactly. I mean, that's his identity. He goes to the Yankees, and now you got to cut him off. And
He still would.
Yeah.
He still would have to. Also, I forgot about New York, the Yankees. Aaron Boone got extended. His contract will now go through 2027. He's currently 51 years old. And if he finishes the contract, he'll have 10 years of service underneath Steinbrenner and the Yankees as manager. It's just a really, really tough year. Okay, so I think 3 Thursdays ago, we had the first game between the Dodgers and Cubs, and of course they're going to play each other 18th and 19th of March in Japan, and they're going to be those are the two first regular season games. I'll have more on that later.
I was gonna say regular season.
Yeah, those are the first two. Just like last year, the Dodgers and Padres had the first two out in South Korea, in which they split. But the automatic balls and strikes testing of the reviews. Now, each team in this spring training, they're trying it. They might have it for 2026, but it's been interesting to see because some umpires have kind of took it the wrong way. It's like, oh, surprisingly, the call has been overturned. The ball will be a strike. They gave little shots at the system or whatever. It's been interesting to see, but a lot of times it's been a quick review though, and that's what you need if you're going to be the most 4 times that two teams can make it and make the challenge. Each team will have 2 challenges per game, separate from the standard replay challenges. The team retains its challenges if the review is successful. It's only balls and strikes. Instead of having the challenges signaled from the dugout, like a manager yelling it out, it's only from the battery and the batter can both challenge. Now they have to tap their head right away, and if it was a ball or a strike in their head. Now, there's been batters that have got the decision's wrong to review, and it's literally right down the middle, but they're just pissed because they didn't swing. But it has to be done immediately after the pitch. The review process took on an average of 17 seconds during its minor league stints in 23 and 24, and it goes right up there on the board just like tennis would with the Hawkeye system. So it's pretty fast and everybody can see it. The first challenge was during that Dodger Cub game. It did take 23 seconds, but they were testing it out for the first time. But ever since then, it's been going faster and faster, so it's been really good. Again, it's in its testing phase. You won't see it this regular season, but you'll see it right now in the spring. But hopefully, if there is a 2026 season, it'll be there. Any thoughts on that before I go on?
It's okay. I mean, I don't think it's going to be fully on board. But I heard the average was like 17 seconds.
Yeah, now it's gone down.
Hello, Big B. You there, Big B?
I think he's on mute.
Oh, okay.
Okay. In Boston, there's drama.
I'm sorry, what was that, guys?
Go ahead, Big B. Okay, we were talking about the automatic balls and strikes system, the challenging of balls and strikes. I don't know if you have an opinion on that.
I am so mixed on that. I mean, as a guy that played the game for a very long time, I mean, that's part of the game is the missing calls, making up calls. It's part of the error. Yes, do I want the call to be right in crucial games? Of course I do. I don't know. It's going to, for me, being a old school guy, it is going to take me some time to get used to that. Just like the pitch clock. To me, I didn't like the pitch clock, but watching it live a few times, it doesn't bother me. I don't think it changed the game at all. I do think that this will change the game a little bit, but it'll be something to get used to.
Yeah, that's how I first felt about the pinch clock. Pitch clock is like, man, you're ruining the game. You're making everything go faster. But when you think about it, it's kind of an old school feel where, no more BSing around. Get in the box, get on the dirt or get on the rubber, and make action happen. Okay, so in Boston, Rafael Devers is one of the worst fielding third basemen. And the Red Sox knew that, but they didn't tell him that they were going to sign Alex Bregman, who plays third base. So there is brushback by Devers. He says, no, I'm only a third baseman. I will only play third. I will not sacrifice. I've been here the longest. I have a contract here. So Bregman being possibly the second baseman for them. They have a second baseman, Campbell, that's going to come up, though. So it just makes it awkward for Boston right now. They made that signing so late that they didn't think it through. So that was interesting to note there. Okay, some other news I would put in. Okay, ESPN will MLB and ESPN will break away after this season of having games and coverage. I mean, already it feels like ESPN doesn't cover MLB. Mm-hmm. They had 3 years left on the deal, but they're pulling out after this year. Both sides agreed to forego the contract that's left on it. ESPN, it seems like, is just putting more money toward the NFL, NBA, and forgetting about MLB. There's no more Baseball Tonight, by the way, too. I mean, that's gone as well.
They scrapped that in 2017.
Yeah, but they would have like the pregame shows as well. I just imagine they're going to have a whole tear down of the Department of Baseball, really, when you think about it. But Rob Manfred, the commissioner, saw this, and it was a $500 million contract being put in there, but he's going to go to a smaller platform, probably Turner Sports, to try to find better revenue off of it. But losing ESPN for MLB, it seems pretty big, but you're hoping that MLB Network can take all of that coverage and just make it their own like they have been. But, after this year, no more Sunday Night Baseball, no more Home Run Derby, no more Celebrity Game, no more, random coverage on the Dodgers and the Yankees only, or the Red Sox. Only on... Go ahead, Chris.
I think the Celebrity Game was like on MLB Network.
Oh, they moved it, I guess.
At least that was... I think so.
Well, I don't know. ESPN still had their hands in it, but like James said, they lose that. I'm going to make a bold prediction here. I'm going to say within the next 10 years, I don't think ESPN is going to be around.
Well, I don't know about that.
I don't know, man. There just seems like
they'll be around on social media probably, but not like as a
who knows? I don't know. I just had that feeling that everybody's going to these streaming services and stuff like that when the contracts are up. And
well, they do too. They have their own thing.
Oh yeah,
they have ESPN Plus.
Right. Maybe I'm wrong, but good for MLB. I mean, they got their network, so hopefully that helps them carry a lot of good games. And like James said, it's going to stop the bias, hopefully, on ESPN with the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Dodgers, all that, and hopefully give coverage to all the teams when it is needed. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the Blue Jays failed to extend him in the offseason. They had a deadline, I think, 3 Tuesdays ago, and they couldn't get anything done. Vlad and his company of people kept upping the price like $15 million each week, and the Blue Jays just said no. So a trade is imminent with Vladdy Guerrero Jr. He keeps liking posts that would make him maybe a New York Yankee, perhaps. So that's interesting to see there. I guess, yeah, I think we did that already. Oh, Jose Altuve is going to move to left field. Even with Bregman gone, they have some young players that are trying to play the infield. So Jose Altuve, as short as he is, will play in left field. And remember, at the new, I forget what it's called, Daikin Field in Houston,
Yep.
they had that weird Crawford boxes and the high wall in left center. So he's going to have to get used to playing left field. And Jose Altuve, that's other from 2 starts at shortstop probably. Since 2011, he's only played shortstop. So he's going to be changing positions, and it's going to be weird. All right, we mentioned MLB, right? So Tony Clark, the players rep, came out and said 2026 probably isn't going to happen. And Rob Manfred, the commissioner, kind of agreed with that. The new CBA, or the one they got in 22, will end at December of this year. So, and by the way, Manfred mentioned, and you don't want to say this part out loud, but he mentioned that a lockout would be good for MLB. It would be good for the owners, but not good for the fans or the players. That's one thing why he shouldn't have said it. It's coming. You just know it's going to happen. The players, some players are interviewed and expecting a lockout. You know, players are fighting for themselves and families, or that's what they're being told to say. But the owners are sick of playing players who don't want to play. The long-term contracts, and the fans just get screwed out of paying more for tickets, streaming services. You know, games are harder to find on TV or streaming now. There's just so many issues. And then, of course, with the Dodgers having to defer in contracts, they don't want that to be a trend. So, you know, people can get away with that. Also, you have owners of teams like Pittsburgh, Miami. I think even you could say the Twins, Big B, the White Sox, and a little bit with the Angels. And then you could also mention the A's before they went on the spending spree, before they left Oakland, or after they left Oakland, I should say. The teams that don't like to spend. And that's where I want to see like a salary cap or a floor where you have to spend as much here. If you go over, you pay a luxury tax, right? So a lot of teams have done that, of course, where they went over, but there's a lot of teams that don't spend at all. And that's where you have the difference of the competitiveness in the league, and that's where it hurts. Also, television and streaming are issues as well. Amazon may step in 2027 to try to get the rights to the MLB package. But a lot of teams that have, like the Bally Sports that turned into FanDuel Sports Network, there was like 11 teams that lost those rights, but some of them got it back. But again, it's making it hard to find the games for, you know, local fans. And the blackout rule was an issue. They're lifting that temporarily. So any of you want to hit you know, the upcoming lockout that possibly will happen, and just all the issues MLB is going through, not having labor peace, and then, you know, the contracts. There's just so much there. If you guys want to hit that real quick.
So I know for like the Rangers, they have their thing with Victory Plus, which the Stars do too, and I think the Anaheim Ducks do as well. But the unfortunate thing is, it kind of goes 2 ways. One, if you want the Victory Plus, it's $100 for the season, but they're doing also going to have it, you know, on your regular cable. I'm not sure how many games, but they will have that available. And I'm not sure about a lockout. I mean, I've heard you talk about it, James, and maybe, but it's a long season, so maybe things change. I don't know.
Yeah, the lockout that happened, what, 95?
94.
94? I mean, that literally almost killed baseball. I mean, we needed the home run. We needed, you know, some, you know, great seasons to bring it back. You know, every time they talk about a lockout or a strike over contract stuff, to me, that's the owner's fault in general. I mean, you know, we all sit here and yeah, we can say the contracts are over getting ridiculous, the defer contracts. But again, the owners are the ones that are agreeing to these deals. I mean, there's not going to be one player in, or even at your normal job, somebody comes up and offers you $50 an hour to work. That's way over that it takes. Of course, you're not going to turn it down. So the players are smart to a point. I mean, the owners are the ones that are really making it hard for fans to go to the games and stuff like that. So, yeah, the lockout, I think if it happens again, I think it might really hurt the sport big time. And I think then we will start seeing some teams like the Rays, like the Twins, those smaller market teams that might have to disband and go away because they're not going to be able to get it. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, so I think we should all just enjoy this season because we might not be here in 26.
Yep.
We might have a special report about it, but
if anything, on deck we start covering the Women's Professional Baseball League.
Yeah, and that too.
Minor league.
Yeah. Well, no, there wouldn't be minor league because it's all.
Yeah, there wouldn't be any
into one.
We cover banana ball.
Bananas, I don't know.
Oh, I never seen that, and I saw the game the first inning in Miami. I was so shocked about all the craziness that happened in the Savannah Banana game.
Oh,
I could not believe it.
Watch.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay, some spring injuries real quick. The Yankees again. Luis Hill is out 6 weeks. He was the Rookie of the Year for New York, starting pitcher. He's out with a lat strain. Atlanta's catcher Sean Murphy is out 4 to 6 weeks. He was hit by a pitch in the ribs and it was cracked. Gunnar Henderson might not start the season. The Baltimore Orioles shortstop. He had a lower right side discomfort. And then for the Rangers, Chris, Adolis Garcia was scratched from, I think, Tuesday's lineup. And he had a left oblique injury and will go an MRI. I want to see if that's a lingering issue for him going forward and into the season, if it's just a nagging injury. Corbin Carroll with the Diamondbacks, he left a game with lower back tightness. He's trying to shake off a sophomore slump last year. Remember, a couple of years ago, the Diamondbacks actually met the Rangers and lost in the World Series, I think in 5 games. And we mentioned Rafael Devers. He isn't ready to play games yet for spring training. He has a right shoulder injury. Rookie Sasaki had his first spring start for the Dodgers, and he had a really good one, I believe, on Wednesday. He struck out 5 Cincinnati Reds. He threw a good chunk of fastballs. 99 was his highest. Has a devastating splitter that really drops off the table. And like I mentioned, 18th and 19th of March, we'll have regular season games, 2 of them with the Cubs and Dodgers. One final note before you get to the next topic. The George Mason University Patriots made college baseball history on Tuesday night by scoring a record 23 runs in 1 inning during their 26-6 victory over Holy Cross. Holy crap. The record was 21 runs by, I think, Vermont and Penn State in the 80s. The record, they tied each 21 runs in 1 inning. And this all came in the top of the third. After after the second inning, it was 23-0. George Mason leading Holy Cross. Just amazing. And it's great too, since spring training has gone on and there wasn't MLB baseball yet. I've been following a little bit of college baseball, and it's been kind of fun. USC is doing very well. They're like the Raising A's right now, where they have to play out in Orange County, waiting for their baseball field to be ready on campus. So I might go watch them because they're closer to here, of course. So Trojans are doing well, by the way. You always have the Blue Bloods that do well with college baseball, and it's always a great thing to see the World Series. So that's some of the spring training storylines. There was a couple of weeks there. I promise you it will be shorter next show.
So before we move on,
good.
that college game with the 23 runs, I didn't see the box score for that, but I saw the highlights. They didn't do any home runs.
No, it was all small ball and regular hits.
All bunting, walk,
Yeah.
couple hard hits to the left field. The right fielder, I think, dropped the ball or misplayed one. Yeah, that pitching staff was. I think if I remember right, there was like 10 walks in that inning or something like that. It was bad.
Wow. I'll have to find that one maybe. Hopefully.
Yeah, you'll have to find the clip, Chris. It was just comical to watch.
Sounds like it. I'm sure they have big expectations. And speaking of big expectations, what's everybody's expectation for their team? Big B?
Ah, man. It is tough because, I mean, with their biggest signing of Ty France, who will probably play first base, they actually lost, in my eyes, their MVP last year in Santana, who just wasn't expected to do anything, but had probably the best year for him in a while. My expectations, are unconclusive right now because it's gonna come down to pitching. They got some good young arms. They got a couple good young kids in the minors. The health of Buxton Correa and Royce Lewis are key. To me, if those guys stay healthy, it's going to look promising. Royce Lewis, I will throw out right now, if he stays healthy, he's going to be an early candidate for MVP like he should be. But outside of that, I'm kind of undecided right now on where I want to put the Twins. I think right now, if I had to pick, I would say third in the division right now. Just because there's so many undecideds and they did do nothing in the offseason. So we will see how that team comes along.
James?
Yeah, real quick about Seattle. I'm sorry, not Seattle, the Twins, I should say. I was reading about how they started out spring training. I hate to remind everybody, of course, how they ended, 2024, where they just fell right on their, what. Literally gave up the lead in a month, it seemed like, and give the division away, a playoff spot away. I thought, Badelli was going to get fired, but, it seems like everybody is back, other from one guy, like you mentioned. But what I hear about the Twins is that they're working more together in their positions. That it seemed like everybody was doing individual workouts at spring training last year. But now everybody is like rallying around each other and doing drills together. I thought that was a thing everybody did. And when I heard this about Rocco Badelli and the Twins, I thought, damn, did they have to go back to fundamentals after what happened last year? It just sounds like high school baseball or something you do like you practice in middle school or something where, oh yeah, everybody get to your positions and everybody do your work together. And I'm just thinking to myself, what? But anything to get them in great spirits, anything to make them believe that they have a shot to prove a lot of people wrong. I think a lot of them feel like they had bad years compared to 2023, like their stats were lower. And of course the performance wasn't as good. So I can imagine, for the Twins players, they want to prove themselves to everyone else because they were supposed to do what they did in 23 and 24. but it just didn't materialize. Speaking of not doing good, the Angels last year had their worst record in franchise history at 63-99. Could get no lower than what happened last year. Still the only franchise, though, that hasn't lost 100 games. But I was hoping they would have lost 100 last year. So a day after the World Series, they go out and trade for Jorge Soler. He's a DH, mostly power hitting outfielder when he shouldn't be playing outfield. But unlike off days of others, he will play the outfield. But the day after the World Series ended, they go get him. Mike Trout will move from center field to right field. That feels like a move, guys, that should have happened at least 5 years ago because of his knee injuries, all the injuries he's had, right? All of them. You feel like you should make that move to limit yourself and to get through his season. He hasn't played a full season, it feels like, in 5 or 6 years. He hasn't cracked 100 games played in a season, it feels like, in forever. Probably 2019 or 18. So it's just been an awful time for Mike Trout and, of course, for the Angels as well. They also went out and got Kikuchi, the free agent right-handed pitcher, starting pitcher from the Astros. He'll probably be number one starter. Tyler Anderson, Jose Soriano, Kyle Hendricks, they got from the Cubs, the longtime Cub. I think he was the last Cub from the 2016 World Series on the team, and now everybody's gone. Reed Detmers and Jack Kohonowitz, Kaden Dana are all trying to get that fifth spot. So the starting rotation, they're still way behind. They, instead of spending $201 million, they could have spent some more and got like 2 aces instead of who they got now. But I think the ownership, Artie Moreno, they've been, scarred by all the free agent signings that went wrong, or the trades that went wrong, or the extensions. So they didn't go out and spend like Tony Clark wanted them to. Ben Joyce is their fireball closer, but Kenley Jansen was signed by the Angels, so both, I think, will compete for that closer role for the Angels. But it's going to take a lot to get to them to get to the closing role. Still solid at catcher with Logan O'Hoppe. They did go out and sign free agent Travis Darnard to be the backup catcher or first baseman. Nolan Schanuel is a young first baseman there, kind of a line drive hitter, but they're trying to make him a power hitter and mess him up. He's a kind of decent fielder. Rengifo is a second baseman coming off of injury, but remember, they have Christian Moore, who they drafted out of Tennessee last draft, and he made his way all the way up to double A last year. So they're both going to be competing for second base. I just don't know what the hell's going to happen with that. Let's see. Third base, it was going to be Anthony Rendon, but the first day of spring training, he says, I need herpes surgery, and I will be out for plenty of time. Just a reminder, he makes $36 million a year, but he hardly plays 36 games a season. It's just ridiculous. So they went out and got Yohan Moncada, the former White Sox prospect who came up and didn't really shine out, but he's there. Shortstop is Zach Neto. He's coming off of elbow surgery, so I'm wondering how he's going to be able to throw. In the outfield, you have Taylor Ward, who's only good a couple of months, and then something crazy happens to him, and he's never the same. Joe Adell should play at center field. He had a better season last year in right field, but he's going to be moved to center, and it hasn't gone so well for him. Mickey Moniak will platoon with him as well in center field. And of course, you have Mike Trout out there in right field, and he's going to have to get used to the short wall in the corner, the ball's rolling around the corner, the sun in right field, just all things he's going to have to get used to. So with all that being said, they did some moves. They made some moves, but nothing that'll say, hey, they're better than the Rangers. They're better than Seattle, who didn't make their moves. Texas, who it feels like Chris kind of retooled, but also got rid of some folks that might have been good for them. The A's, who really, really showed up well last year despite everything going on, and the Astros, who just lost a bunch of players. So that division is so winnable for us, Chris. But the Angels, it just seems like they didn't spend enough to do it. I feel like it's going to be a fourth place finish for the Angels, maybe third, like Big B's Twins, but I just don't see it. With the Rangers, what did they do in the offseason, Chris, and where do you see them finishing?
I'm going to say third, and I know only one of our teams is going to make third, but I'm going to say third because you don't know what's really going to happen. Garcia's injured. They're thinking about having DeGrom pitch, I think, fifth as a starter, just, to get him more rest. But as of right now, I don't know. I'm just going to say third.
All right.
I have stuff to do.
Let's see, what else do we have? You want to go to the next topic, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on.
For a second, hold on one. Okay. What about Hall of Fame snub? We had the Hall of Fame selection.
Oh,
I don't know, a couple months ago.
Yeah. There were some snubs, but there's going to be a new one this year. I think 4 got in last year. But no, overall, the Hall of Fame snubs, there is plenty of them. I know some of them, Don Mattingly, we were just talking about. Curt Schilling, you could definitely say. Kenny Lofton, Steve Garvey, all the steroid players as well. Just throw them in one bunch. Keith Hernandez feels like they should be the next one. Feels like MLB is going back in time, trying to find Hall of Fame players. Billy Wagner, I think, was one, but he got in finally. Lou Whitaker got in. Let's see what else. Chase Utley might be ready yet, but we'll see. But it feels like most of the steroid guys you can really you could put in. But yeah, the Hall of Fame class, let me bring that up. It was, I know, who was it again? Oh, Adrian Beltre, Todd Helton, Joe Mauer. So those 3 players got in along with Jim Leland. Last year. Yeah, last year they got in. Yeah. This year, I don't think it's announced yet. I want to say.
Yeah, Ichiro.
Oh, it is. Oh, duh. That's right. So Ichiro Suzuki got in, of course, first ballot. CC Sabathia got in, and I thought, yeah, okay, nah, I don't know about that one. And then Billy Wagner got in, the Fireball closer in the 90s, 2000s. But it just feels like some of the ones I mentioned, the snubs, that maybe they should go back in time and get more since they're putting more players in. There's Keith Hernandez, there's Don Mattingly. It feels like you should put more of those in. But I'm very happy for Ichiro. I thought that was easily a first rounder for me. After that, I can't really think of anybody else that was snubbed. What do you think, Big B?
Ichiro for sure was getting in. And if everybody knows the story, there's a local media guy that here in Minnesota that did not vote for Ichiro. That's why he didn't get 100%. Yeah. I guess there's been reports that media guy said that he wasn't going to vote for Ichiro because he knew he was getting in, which I think was BS. But whatever. Snub wise, Curt Schilling has already said he doesn't want to get in the Hall of Fame. So he's kind of left a bad taste in the media's mouth. some of the steroid guys, I mean, they should be in. I mean, if you're going to recognize Barry Bonds' home run record, again, just like Pete Rose, he should be in. There's been a lot of players that have come out that have faced Bonds and said he's by far the greatest hitter that they've ever seen, ever faced as a pitcher. Steroids or not, they're considering him the greatest. So I think he should get in. Mark McGwire should get in. Sosa should get in because again, those two alone saved baseball back in the '90s. Everybody's got to look past this the steroids and PhDs and all that. Because with baseball, we've all talked about it. You have a round ball against a round bat that's coming at you at anywhere from 90 to 100 miles an hour. You got less than a second to think if you're going to swing, not swing. Have to have great eye coordination to see what kind of pitch it is. If it's going to be outside, inside, up high, low. PhDs can't help that. So to me, people just have to get over it. Let these guys in. Or don't talk about them in baseball, I guess is what I'm coming down to. So, but I didn't think anybody really got snubbed. I'm with you, James. CC kind of shocked me that he got in. I think could have a couple more got in. Yeah, but I don't think it was that big of a studded class or a ballot to be like, oh, this guy's going to be on a verge and stuff like that. So I'm okay on how voting went down this year.
Yeah, I agree.
Two guys that trended up real quick was Carlos Beltran and Andrew Jones, but they just missed.
Yeah, I don't know how Andrew Jones might be a shocker because he was supposed to be the stud of the Braves. He was for a while. Maybe he got overshadowed by Chipper Jones. That's why maybe they didn't get in right away. I don't know, but he'll get in. Jones and Beltran will both get in.
It is an interesting, debate of who should have got in or if it's, a good class. But, congratulations to those who have made it. It'd be interesting to see what 2026 is going to look like next year. And then finally, can Shohei Ohtani outdo himself from 2024? James?
Yeah, I think we also missed the big moves of the year,
Okay.
of the off season, real quick. But yeah, Shohei Ohtani. Before we go to that thing, he had just one of the superb years. He only hit, of course. He only was a DH last year, but he was just amazing. He had 54 home runs. What else did he do?
Same amount of stolen bases, almost. I think
59 stolen bases, 130 RBI, 134 runs scored, 197 hits. Just a presence in the lineup. He also walked 81 times. He did strike 162 times, but that just has become a thing where it's like, yeah, you can strike out 150 times, but as long as you're hitting dingers, it don't matter. He's really an all or nothing, swinger when you think about it. But this year he's back at pitching, and it's just weird because the Dodgers have kind of shut down process, let him go for a little bit, and then he was shut down earlier this week at spring training in Glendale. So they're going to be very cautious with him. People thought he was going to be right away opening day, but that's not going to happen in March. I'm looking, I think, towards May for him to make his pitching debut with LA. With that, stats wise, I don't know if he'll get back to what he did with the Angels pitching wise. And a lot of the times he didn't get the run support, but now he'll get the run support with the real LA team with the Dodgers. So I think pitching wise he'll probably get 12 wins, and then he'll probably have like 7 losses. I think it's going to be a struggle for him. But hitting wise, he should have still over probably 51 home runs. He'll drive in probably 118 runs. I think his stats will go down just a tad, just with all the pitching and then the time he'll miss from pitching some of those days. Just the double duty he'll have to go back to. I think it's going to be a transition for him. So that's what I think about Shohei and his numbers. He won't outdo last year's numbers.
Big B.
I mean, realistically, if he pitches and hits, I mean, he kind of already outdid himself from last year. How productive he's going to be, that's, kind of what I think James's points are. Hitting wise, I mean, if he was just hitting, I mean, you're looking, okay, if you're going to outdo yourself, you're going to have a better batting average and maybe the same amount of home runs and stolen bases. Or you cut down on the strikeouts, you have the same amount of home runs and stolen bases. Or you just keep doing what you're doing and you end up going 60 for 60 or, stuff like that. I mean, but with him pitching, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it seems like they've always had, good pitchers, like James said, and has shut them down at different times and, haven't had them on the postseason roster because of injuries, concerns. It'll be interesting to see, how he does bounce back pitching. I think maybe his first few starts are going to be the troublesome because he hasn't pitched in over a year and a half almost, I think. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But, I think right now, if he can do both, Dodgers are going to be a tough team to beat, even with Ohtani pitching once a week pretty much. Because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, James, didn't the Angels pitch Ohtani like every Sunday?
It seemed like that was the case, especially when he first started, because I was at most of those.
So if they put him on some kind of routine like that, then he can probably get into a nice groove. But if he's pitching like every 5th day, that might hurt his groove.
When they had Shohei do that, they had a 6-man rotation because he wanted that. All of a sudden, he goes to the Dodgers. He's like, "I'll do whatever. Put me in the 5-man rotation." So it's about preference, more about health. That's what it felt like.
Yep. But I mean, if the Dodgers come out and say, you know what, Ohtani's going to pitch every Sunday, then you can get your body used to that, and we're off to see, probably an outstanding year for Ohtani.
Yeah, I mean, it should be more about health than preference, but I think kind of like what Big B was saying, and if he pitches and bats, I think it's an improvement or, a step up from last year because he was injured and couldn't really, do the batting like he used to. So, or the pitching. But it's going to be interesting to see what year 2 in LA for the Dodgers is going to be looking like for him. And I guess finally you wanted to touch on some of the big moves.
Just real quick, Juan Soto, the Mets beat out the Yankees to get him, but it was $765 million contract, 15 years with the New York Mets. That sounds like a prison sentence. Only he's getting paid. But it's just amazing to think of the largest contract ever in North American professional sports history to go move to a different borough. I mean, I was shocked by the numbers, not shocked by the move because the rumors were there, but it seemed like all the Yankees and the fans wanted Soto to stay. And once that news came out, they burned his jerseys, they burned his, paraphernalia. They hate him now on the other side of the borough, on that side of the borough. But I was so shocked by that, I couldn't believe that. Probably the second one, Roki Sasaki. Blue Jays, Giants, Padres were involved in negotiations, but he ended up, of course, going to the Dodgers and teaming up with Yamamoto and Otani on the same starting staff with the Dodgers. Yikes. Red Sox got Garrett Crochet, the White Sox ace, that's going to try to boost the Red Sox for one season before he's a free agent. So that's going to be interesting to see. The Cubs acquired Kyle Tucker, the outfielder from the Astros, and also Isaac Paredes. Excuse me. Both went to the Cubs from the Astros, and it made the Astros a little bit weaker. But Kyle Tucker's on a 1 year deal, so he's going to try to ball out at Wrigley Field, and hopefully the wind will be blowing out for him to hit the home runs. Paredes is going to be taking over third base for Bregman. Those are big shoes to fill in Houston. The Diamondbacks surprised everybody getting Corbin Burns, that free agency sweepstakes. That was a shocker. I think everybody was thinking that he was going to either stay with the Orioles or stay somewhere back east. But damn, he made the Diamondbacks a little bit tougher to hit now with that rotation they have going on. It's a 6-year deal, by the way, for Burns. Not like a Bregman deal or a Correa deal where it's like a 3-year deal, but it's opt out after every year. So that was really a shocker there. I think those moves that I mentioned were pretty big. You know, I mentioned the moves that that the Angels made, but those moves there, if you guys want to talk about those I felt like were the biggest moves of the offseason. And of course, you throw in Bregman, and then eventually the trade of Vladdy Jr. wherever he goes. So there's still 1 or 2 trades that might happen through these free agent signings.
It's like a fantasy movie.
Well, I think the big shocker one, right off the bat is Soto going from the Yankees to the Mets for, I believe it was less money or last year or something. I'm surprised New York is still standing. I mean, I thought for sure, like you said, James, the fans are going to tear down the house, especially the Yankees fans. I'm going to throw out a jokingly question there because I know Chris, James, I know you kind of watch wrestling a little bit. Who's more hated in sports right now, Juan Soto or John Cena? I mean,
Or Dominic.
You know what happened, James?
Yeah.
No, I kept seeing a word and I have no idea what it is.
Oh,
he turned bad. He turned
evil. He turned bad. So he kind of did a Hogan thing and turned on everybody. But no, I mean, I think we could just sit there and talk 100%. The biggest move on the offseason was Soto going cross country, and then his first preseason game or spring training game, he misplays a ball. I mean, so and everybody's like, yeah, see, here's the Mets. Here's what you got for this year. So
yeah, he had 2 plays yesterday, I think, in yesterday's spring training game in Port St. Louis, where he was going to misplay a ball in right field, and he luckily caught it. And then the next batter hit it, and it literally went off his glove, and he ran into the wall. So they're gonna have to get used to that in right field with Juan Soto. It's been an adventure everywhere he's been playing right field or left field even.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be something. He'll probably be DHing most of the time. And I was actually shocked on the move. I ain't gonna lie. I thought for sure, when the free agency started, it's just like, okay, it's gonna be the Dodgers or the Yankees. I didn't think the Mets were gonna be involved. I thought it was them. Maybe the Braves might have made a play for him. But yeah, when they said he signed with the Mets, I mean, I was shocked. I didn't think it was gonna happen. So
now it's going to be interesting with all these new signings. Heading into 2025. But maybe that will help the teams. Maybe it'll hurt them. Who knows? Only time will tell.
Yeah, Max Fried, I forgot to mention with the Yankees, they went out and signed like 5 different players to make place for Juan Soto. So they got the Braves ace Max Fried. So that really helps their rotation. And then they'll have like a platoon for their outfield along with Aaron Judge. So it seems like they'll be just fine without him. But the pitching injuries right now, that's going to be the worrisome issue with Hill. And now with Garrett Cole, we'll probably find out this week if there's any real damage with his arm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. I know, depth is good and depth is very needed. As we head out, any final thoughts? Big B.
No, great first show. I'm glad baseball's right there. My favorite time of the year because, it leads to the, we're getting down there to, a couple months we'll be talking College World Series, Little League World Series. This time of year is very fun for me, baseball wise. Just getting out there and watching ball. I like it, and of course it is a sprint or a marathon, not a sprint. So, your team start off hot early. Can they keep it up? Your team start off cold. Can they bounce back? And then you got the Twins that'll be in first place all year, and they'll lose it within 2 weeks and then finish last. So it's all the ups and downs of baseball.
You gotta be more positive than that.
I know.
James.
Yeah, you mentioned I mentioned the Braves and off-season moves. Jurickson Profar, who's a good Padre, he signed with the Braves late. They gave him a 3-year, a good deal, but he has a jammed left wrist, and he's going to go undergo further testing. That happened today. Diving catch to a wall, and he jammed his left wrist. So that's maybe a big loss for the Braves, along with Sean Murphy, their catcher. So the NL East, that's going to be intriguing with now the Braves, the Phillies, and their starting pitching, and then whatever the Mets have going for them. Again, we'll do the division predictions and all of that probably next show. But yeah, it was good to be back on here. There was so much information I talked about on like other baseball shows, like Halos in the Infield. I do a Around the League show on that. So yeah, I had all that information for 2 weeks, and I had to get it out to someone.
There you go. We are back. Baseball season's in full swing, even though we're in spring training, preseason games, whatever you want to call it. And before you know it, we're going to have those 2 international regular season games. And, we're going to have some fun. And join us next time for another edition of On Deck. With that, have a great week, and we'll be back next time.